So what up? What up? What up? New episode. Here's this topic. Netflix release is Love Is Blind season 2. I wanted to talk about it a little bit to see what he was thinking about the show itself. So the premise of the show for those who have not watched Love Is Blind is basically a show where they choose a cast of women and men that are going to talk to one another for about 2 weeks in separate rooms, so they don't see each other, and they're going to get to try to create a connection. And based on the conversation that they're having, they have to choose who they feel like they're the most compatible with, And if they're compatible, I believe toward the end of the show, you have the option of asking the person that do you actually want to meet. I think there's the last step of you want to get married, which I think is just for the show. I don't know why, they do this thing where they feel the need to get people to get married after 2 weeks. But essentially, when two people feel like they have a connection with one another, they get to meet they get to take that next step and meet in real life. And so they see one another. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit. If love is really blind. So I think, what do you think, man?
I think that there's just looking at, I only saw about a couple episodes of the show, but
you don't have to see that many.
But like, I think there's a discrepancy between sometimes men and women, truth be told. I really do feel like that. I feel like that for men, we're very visual creatures. Women are too, but I think that for men, it's like our mission is to get the girl. Sometimes a lot of men will just say, get the girl, get her in bed, do whatever it is. And it's difficult to really build that emotional connection and without seeing that person. You know what I mean? You might be thinking, okay, she's dope or whatnot, but in the back of your head, what you're really thinking about is, I need to meet her so we can get it cracking. We need to do this and that. I think for a lot of the women, obviously they're hoping that the guy looks great, right? But what tends to happen is emotionally they start developing a connection and whatnot, but it's such a risky thing to do, man, because you don't know what this person might look like. Everyone has expectations. As much as we love to say we get into certain situations without expectations, that's not true. You build expectations, and even if you have certain expectations of positivity, especially as you're getting along with this person, you're starting to wonder like, whoa, I'm going to associate all the positive aspects that I can possibly think of to this person. And that may also have to do with how they are physically, how they're going to behave physically. You might build up fantasies in your head like, yo, this is exactly how our first meeting is going to go. And sometimes it works out. Sometimes it does not, right? So I don't know, man. Me personally, I don't think love is blind, man, because at the end of the day, we all have our requirements. Some people I think we're all shallow and vain creatures to a certain degree.
It's not even being shallow. It's just having,
no, but I don't think
preferences.
I don't think there's nothing wrong with being shallow or vain. I don't think, or having preferences or expectations. It's up to you. Like, no one can criticize what you have as your requirements or whatnot.
But that's why the word shallow bothers me, because I feel like there's a negative connotation there when there's nothing wrong with having preferences and things that you like. But I kind of want to I kind of want to expand on what you just said. First off, I agree with most of what you said. Where my thing about this show is, first of all, and I've tweeted about this, is I feel like the cast, they're choosing people that are fairly attractive by social standard. It's those people that I feel like in real life, they wouldn't necessarily have issues finding a partner. Mm-hmm. If you want to really show that love is blind, why don't you just diversify the cast a little bit? Why don't you put someone who's a midget in there? Let's just put a little midget in there, Let's put a midget. Let's put
someone of
dwarf?
diminished. No. Someone
little people.
Someone of diminished.
Dwarf. I don't even know anymore. What are you supposed to say?
Keep going.
He said, I don't know. Let's put someone who's short, someone who's on a bigger size. Let's put someone who lost a foot in the war. I don't know, man. let's really see if love is really blind.
Perfect example. Anyone who's seen the movie The Blind Side in English or Untouchables, right?
Yeah.
Remember they were corresponding through letters in that movie. A guy who was in a wheelchair, he was corresponding through letters to a woman that he had fallen in love with, and she fell in love with him. And I mean, there was a difference in the French and English adaptation, but you gotta see what we're talking about, right? When she comes and she sees homie in a wheelchair, is love really blind then? But
he had a lot of money, so that's different. But it's a good example. So just to continue on what I was saying is, so that's the first aspect that I have an issue with, where I do feel like the cast is not diversified enough. But also, I do believe you can create a connection with someone within those 2 weeks and off of conversation, because the human aspect of things is not just the physical. Well, you said something where it's like, women are just as physical as us. They also want someone to be attracted with. That's a myth of society. Maybe not as much as men, but they want to be with someone who's attractive, you know? So I think that's one thing. The other thing too is physical is not everything. Having said that, physical is not everything. I think, for example, me, I love someone who's very charming, someone who has a great voice, and I think those are things that you see in the show. Someone that you love to hear in their voice, you can hear how they think, their mindset. You can create a connection based off of that. Now the issue is, where I have an issue with the show is, you guys don't go. You guys don't go.
What? They didn't have nobody on there who speak like Stephen Hawking?
That's what I'm saying. Like, they're choosing a cast where I feel like the people are somewhat charming. You know?
I know.
But
that's most of these shows, though.
Right, exactly. Because at the end of the day, it's the appeal. If everybody was ugly, nobody would be watching the show. Like, we get it. But I think that what I think is, in order for you to fall in love with someone, you have to go through certain things with them. You have to go through certain settings. That's the reason why when you meet someone, you usually go on a first date in a public place, in a public setting, because you want to see how that person behaves. How do they treat the waiter? Are they going to open the door? You know, things like that. How do they handle themselves on the table? All those things pay attention into the dating, the dating process, right? So when you put two people in a room like that, all this thing goes away. So to me, it's hard for me to believe that, oh my God, I fell in love with this person. We have this amazing connection. And as you continue watching the show, once you start realizing that they have issues in conversation, like, because they have to live. So essentially, when you choose the person that you want to be with, they do this thing where they have to live with one another. And that's when you start seeing the issues. You start seeing that, oh, well, some people are more clean than the others. Some people like their place to be set up, and you start seeing issues. You start seeing argument. Like, I know one thing where the girl she's still stuck in their head, so there's more and more argument. And the guy is just like, yeah, no, I still love you, I chose you. But in real life, the red flag you see, because there are red flags, I know for a fact that he would not be with this girl, or vice versa. But you know that because of the show, and actually, by the way, I want to know how much they're getting paid for to be on the show, because you have to put a pause in your life, right? Let's say you're there for a month or two.
That's most of these shows, Survivor, whatever
it
is.
But I truly believe that it's just like, I see red flags.
They're actors. I think it's part of their resume at the end of the day.
Because there's one guy, he said a construction worker. I'm just like, construction workers don't look like this, man. They don't.
Where they find
no offense, exactly.
They just pulled up at the lot and said, hey, you, man. Oh, you look like Adonis, right? All right, come in the car.
I'm like, I don't know, man, but I've never seen a construction worker looking like that. But I think, that's my issue with the show, where, first of all, why did you have them getting married after 2 weeks? And they bring their parents in. Like, you have to tell your parents that you're getting married within 2 weeks of this person you just met. It's just like, why? And when you see the person in real life, you start seeing that some of them have issues with the way they look. They don't admit it on camera. They find ways to say, physical. It's just like, oh, she's a pretty girl, but you can tell there's issues. Like, there's this one dude, Shane, for those I haven't watched. He has he's meeting. I haven't seen the whole season, but he's choosing one girl and then he meets the other, and I feel like when he meets the other, he's just like, damn. It's like, cause afterward, like, he meets like, damn, I should have chose her, because like you said, goes back to what he said. Man, we very physical, so sometimes, unfortunately, the physical aspect cloud our judgment, where we're gonna give more chances. I think everybody, it's not even just men, we're gonna give more chances to someone we're attracted to because we're that attracted to this person. And I think that's just the reality. But to kind of finish my point, can love really be blind? I don't think so. I think it's an experiment they do for the show. It does really well. That's why I wanted to cover it, because it answers a lot of questions that we all have, but at the end of the day, no. You haven't been through enough with this person in 2 weeks to say, hey, I want to be married to you. And you hear certain things like, one thing that bothers me is oh man, I'm in love with you. I mean, I'm hearing the word love when you haven't been through anything with this person, something that bothers me. And you, the person, the thing that they say is just like, oh, I've never been through this. I never had this feeling. I'm just like, really? Some of you guys are 30 years old and you've never been through this feeling in 30 years of your life. I feel like I trust you. What have you been through with this person to trust them? Within 2-3 weeks? No, seriously. Yo, man. The whole time I was watching this show, I was just like, man.
Ooh, it's getting hot outside. It's probably because of him, man.
I wanted to turn up the show. I'm just like, guys, man, yo. How can you can build, like I said, I repeat myself, you can build a connection with someone, no problem, and see where things going. But the marriage thing and the I love you, nah.
I mean, it's a show. It's a show, bro. You know what you said, right? And this is what I ultimately think about shows like this. I feel it can be a social experiment, but obviously it's scripted.
And it's scripted.
It obviously is scripted.
Yeah.
But the thing is, right, about relationships, I think that ultimately, man, everything starts when you actually sit down in front of the person. You can have all sorts of already some sort of attachment based off the conversations you guys had that wasn't face to face. But everything starts anew when you actually sit in front of the person and be like, okay, how do we interact with each other? Are you as funny as you are on your text? Or like, is your and also a lot of people also, even when they're conversing through like digital means, they don't even like getting on the phone. So is the conversation going to be as fluid as it is when we're doing with these ones and twos and ABCs, right? And then on top of that, you mentioned living together, all that kind of stuff. It's a progression of a relationship. People like, especially in today's day and age, right? Most people get engaged after they actually start to, well, in the West, actually after they go through certain steps, like you mentioned.
No, we're talking about the West. We're talking about,
when they start living together too, when you see that person's habits on the day to day, because a lot of people also, I mean, you may be boyfriend and girlfriend, you're cool, etc., but you only see each other so much during like y'all companionship or whatnot. When you're around this person and you'll be around them 24/7 at any point, wake up in the morning, go to bed, all the stuff that is in between, you yourself have to start realizing, okay, can I sustain being the partner of this person and the stuff that comes along with it? Right? So I just don't believe that, love take certain steps. Even when someone, right, even when a boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever, you're together and you start telling each other, I love you. And this is more of a general conversation away from this stuff, right? I love you may be based off of the stuff that you've already been exposed from that person. That I love you can turn a little sour once you start learning even more about that person that you may have not known based off of the situations you were already with them. So, man, relationships are complex. They're ever turning. They're ever evolving. It's a life of experience, man. And at the end of the day, man, I don't feel shows like this are really able to capture that. It's an interesting question, and obviously we're having a debate about that. We're talking about it. It's dope. Thank you for giving us this content. I hope these people are getting paid well. Go back to the gym. Get your gold gym membership covered at least. Superb.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, man, don't take these things for face value. That's all. And I think you summed it up pretty well. I just wanted to finish. The relationship really starts when you start living with one another. I'm telling you, when you start living with one another, that's the reason why we see so many relationships break up during COVID, because they were with you said, with the person 24/7. Just like, do I really want to be with this dude or this girl for the next for the end of time? Nah, or things get real when you start having sex with them and you start figuring out, like, ooh, you wanted this good, because that's when things start. So I agree with everything he said. I'm not even going to add so much more, but I definitely want to know what you guys think about the show. If you think it's possible, please let us know what you think. I wasn't even thinking about relationships anymore. Right now, I was thinking of a situation in college when one of my boys, after freshman year, he was like, yo, man, you and me need to live together. I remember one day I walked into his dorm room, and then I walked into his bathroom. The bathroom was great, bro. It was great, man.
Fact.
I was like, bro, it ain't gonna work like that, bro.
If you really want to know someone, live with them. I guarantee you.
Oh, man. All right, man.
That's the end.